I'm Alex Gupta with UATV. Today I'll be speaking with Mr. Phil Butcher about war veterans making the transition from the battlefield back to civil society. He is the Director of Veteran Services at the University of St. Thomas in Houston, Texas. Hello, Mr. Butcher. Welcome to UATV.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Your organization, would you be able to explain what it does, what you're doing in Ukraine, and how it's helping veterans here in Ukraine?
Oh, absolutely. I work at the University of St. Thomas. I work with our military students and help them make the transition from the uniform to the college campus, and with the hopes of getting them to graduate either from an undergraduate program or a graduate program in order for them to get really good jobs and start careers and make that successful transition. I've been working with veterans in the Houston area for about 8 years now. I helped start an organization called the Lone Star Veterans Association, which is a social networking group for Iraq and Afghanistan veterans in the Houston and Texas. It started with about 6 people, and now it's got 7,500 members. It's the largest network of Iraq and Afghanistan veterans in Texas. So my colleague and I are here to see what is being done for the ATO veterans when they come back from fighting, to see if we can offer insight and share information with experts that we have in the United States and other nations.
How long have you been in Ukraine so far?
We have been here since Monday, so this is our 4th day.
Okay, it's your 4th day, and you've been meeting with veterans and also NGOs, I've been told, in the last 4 days. What have you heard from them? What has struck you the most? What are some of the things you've heard?
One thing that struck me the most is just how dedicated the people in this sphere are. The veterans themselves, many of whom volunteered to go and defend their land, and then the people that work in the NGOs, they work tirelessly to help these veterans return and try to transition.
When you've been dealing with veterans in the United States and what you've been seeing with veterans here, what have been some of the differences as far as when they come back from the war zone and the issues they face?
I mean, a lot of the issues are the same on both sides in some ways. You know, we're trying to prevent homelessness, joblessness, family problems, substance abuse, and ultimately suicide. And I think those risks can be the same in any country, in Kyiv or in Houston, Texas. The biggest difference between the two groups of veterans, in the United States, we go thousands of miles away to fight our wars, whereas the veterans here, they're fighting maybe 6 hours away, defending their homes from a foreign enemy. How
does that impact the veterans versus, as far as when they come back into society, versus in the United States, right? They go to Afghanistan, Iraq, around the world, whereas here it's only about 6 hours. So what is the biggest difference?
I would imagine that with that kind of, with the being that close, maybe it's probably a lot harder to kind of shake it off when you get here.
Okay, so it's a lot closer to home, and it's more difficult to escape the war zone from what happened there.
Correct, and it's, you know, the land looks the same. The land in Iraq and Afghanistan is very different from most of the land in the United States. I mean, there are desert regions, but it's distinctly different, and so I think that can even help in some ways.
Does the dynamic of the war, obviously, you know, we're fighting for different reasons in Afghanistan, Iraq, what America's doing there versus here, does that play any difference?
We haven't really seen anything like that yet. I mean, the people here are defending their homes, so there may be, I mean, they volunteer, and I think a lot of them are going with, very little training and things like that. So there may be a different sort of commitment, but our military is a very professional military, a very well-trained military, a very well-funded military, and a very well-equipped military. So I would say that's probably the biggest difference.
Do you notice, do the soldiers, when they come back from the front line and they come back to Kiev or in these other cities, are they greeted very warmly? Is there a lot of, do they feel more welcome in society?
I think it's still so new that I think there's a bit of a disconnect, and I think they're still trying to figure out their role. These people have the potential to be community leaders, to be business leaders, to be political leaders, so we really want to tap into that potential. Veterans have an amazing set of soft skills that make them great leaders, great entrepreneurs, and things like that.
Yeah, in the U.S., you know, Marines, people in the armed forces come back from the war zone, they come back in the U.S., they can get great jobs, they have leadership skills. Is the military here, do they equip the soldiers with those same set of skills?
I think being in a combat zone gives you those skills. You learn how to prioritize, you learn how to take action, you learn how to lead people. I think you can pick that up very easily, and we've seen that. The veterans that we've talked to, they are leaders. These are warriors. These are very smart people.
How is the infrastructure for programs? Obviously, in the United States, in the university you're in, the university I went to, there was a great program to help veterans when they came back and get into school, like what you said, go undergrad, grad school. Do they have that here?
They have some university options. They're not being taken advantage of as much as they could be. There are a lot of really good other programs here in Kyiv. We've met with some great organizations. They do really good peer mentoring here as well. There's job placement. I think the big thing is getting all these different organizations talking to each other and trying to share ideas, and then also hand the veteran off from need to need.
What does that mean?
So, okay, say I run an organization that does peer mentoring for post-traumatic stress. Well, say I have a veteran that I'm mentoring, and we start talking, and he says, well, I need a job, and I need one pretty fast. You know, if I'm not aware that there is an organization that does job placement, then that makes me less effective as a peer mentor. Whereas if I know that John over at this organization does job placement, then when I'm peer mentoring my buddy and he says that, I can say, oh, well, let's go talk to John over at such and see what we can get done.
So a lot of these organizations that work with vets that can help, excuse me, can help them, they aren't interconnected. They're not communicating as well as they should.
Not as much as they could be. So we're hoping to kind of push that as one of the big things if we can get it done.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, so what's your goal while you're here in the next, I don't know how much longer you're going to be here, but what would you like to accomplish while you are here?
We're really doing a landscape analysis. You know, we're really still here listening. We're hoping to execute, to at least get some like strategic goals for the space, the sphere laid out, so that the different organizations can kind of have something to work towards.
When you get done doing the landscaping, what you're going to do here, and you go back to the United States, would you work with the U.S. government?
What we're really going to look to do is connect these different organizations, both NGO and state-sponsored organizations, with experts that we have in the United States, and that'll be on both the NGO and the government side of things. And we want to set up things where these experts and the experts here in Ukraine can talk, you know, weekly or monthly by Skype, whatever the need is, to share best practices and ideas.
Okay. I wanted to ask you about, I know when veterans come back from the war zone, obviously, you know, due to the armaments, what happens, some lose limbs, and there are prosthetics. How do prosthetics help in the transition from the battlefield to modern society?
It can help them have a much more fuller life. They can, you know, if it's a leg, that gives them better mobility. It means they have a better shot at getting a job and staying employed, and that prevents the homelessness, joblessness, substance abuse, family problems, and possible suicides.
Is there any one specific industry or even field of study where veterans really like or gravitate towards, that do well in university?
They can do well in any program. I have veterans who are going to be doctors in pre-med programs. I have veterans who are getting MBAs and who will be either stellar managers or entrepreneurs. I have veterans that are majoring in political science and will go into government service and do great things. I really just think it falls into the personal interest of the person.
What would you like to see done in Ukraine? When you leave here and you come back, which I'm sure you will, what would you like to see done in that interim of time?
I would really like to see the organizations talk to each other on a regular, kind of official way.
Okay. Any other observations that you've noticed while working with the veterans?
Just as I said before, the people are amazing. It's been humbling and inspiring to see how hard they've worked to make Ukraine a better place.
Are other universities, or in the United States, other programs coming here to Ukraine besides St. Thomas?
Not that I know of, but we are going to try to connect them. You know, there's bigger state schools that have different experiences and expertise than I would, and so if there's some sort of expert in that realm that we can connect people with, absolutely.
I know you've been doing some work at a pizzeria here.
Yeah, we went to, well, Pizza Veterano. It's a veteran-owned pizza parlor here in Kyiv. They have great pizza. It's a great place, and The people that started it, they wanted to have a place, number one, where they could hire veterans when they came back to give them a job, and then number two, to have a place for the veterans to congregate when they come back here or they're returning home and things like that.
And this is a chain, right? There's more than one.
From what I understand, I believe it is, and there's a coffee brand as well, a Veterano Coffee as well. They're really great guys.
So is this this is a really good success story of Ukrainian veterans coming back and starting a business?
Oh, it's a huge success story.
Mm-hmm. Are you using this as a model?
We would like to. We hope they are, and I think it's a very influential brand in the veteran community, so I think they can do a lot of great things.
Do you know what was their inside story? I mean, how long ago did they come back, and what was...
I'm not sure about all of that, to be honest with you, but the pizza's great and the atmosphere is even better.
How many veterans have you met with since you've been here, do you think?
Oh, probably close to 20 now.
Okay, you met with 20?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. When do you think you will be coming back to Ukraine?
Not soon enough. We love it here, but probably later on this year or early next year.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming in. Is there any other thoughts you'd like to share? I mean, it's a very fascinating subject, and it relates a lot between the United States and in Ukraine, what's happening here.
I think this is very important. I think the work that the veterans have done, I think, you know, volunteering to go and defend their land is very important, and then they come back and they work to help each other, and then the NGOs are doing a great job. So as I said, it's been very inspiring meeting with these people.
Also, actually, briefly wanted to ask you about the hospital situation.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, in the United States, post-traumatic stress disorder, it's a very big deal,
mm-hmm.
and we do have a lot of hospitals working on it, probably not enough.
Mm-hmm.
But how is the infrastructure here in Ukraine?
Well, we're going to go tour a state hospital tomorrow. So I'll be able to answer that better tomorrow. They do have an infrastructure, but we've had our global war on terror now for almost 15 years. We've had a lot of time. They've been doing this for 4, so I think it'll get better. Yeah,
so there's a lot of room for improvement, but
yeah, and I mean, even our system in Houston, we have a really good system. We can always improve everything, it can always be better.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Alex Gupta with UATV. I was speaking with Phil Butcher about war veterans making the transition from the battlefield back to civil society. Mr. Butcher is the Director of Veteran Services at the University of St. Thomas in Houston, Texas.